My mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice cold. I'm only here to even the score. Whoa. My mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice cold. We down right now, but did it before. Whoa. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is on up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is on up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the United Ones podcast, episode number 55 or episode number 3 of season 2. If you're counting, I don't know why we keep saying that, but we're going to keep doing it anyway. As a reminder, we are the only podcast that features a former UCF national champion, a former UCF radio host, an ESPN analyst and hoops player, an infamous, yes, that's infamous for a reason, rapper, our resident influencer, and an IG star shooting the breeze talking UCF sports. Just remember, do us a favor, like, follow, comment on YouTube, IG, and, you know, all the podcast platforms. Make sure you check out the 70-plus teams and conferences on the College Huddle, which, by the way, we're dropping our own top 25 that I'm participating in, so make sure you check those out. Week to week. Obviously, I'm going to, rank us probably higher than everybody else, but I'm okay with that. Remember to like and check out the Big 12 Huddle, 4th in Florida, and our new stream that'll actually be coming this week because it didn't come last week when it was supposed to because of things and stuff and things. So it will be debuting this week. That being said, we got a lot to talk about. Apparently, KJ's come back from the dead. We saw 2022 KJ, not 2023 KJ. So that was super exciting. And the team looked really, really good. So I'm excited to get into that with the guys. We'll talk a little bit more about our key takeaways. We'll talk about TCU, which is coming up, our first true test of the season, and a way to pave the way for our Big 12 championship. Yes, hot take. We're going to recap the scores. We're going to have a little bit of a listener love. We'll talk about all the great comments and things that you guys do for us. Alan's out this week, so we won't have an oxymoronic stat of the week, but we will have a sometimes funny fact of the week. And since, Alan decided to skip this week, we'll have Josh give us the update on things that Alan does not watch. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get the crew to the stage. First up, Nobra's back.
Hey now.
Hey now. All right. Is that like a pirate, like swimmer? Like what was that, bro?
I used it for a triathlon with a couple of my friends a while ago.
No. I'm talking about the combination of the face and the glasses.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. You had to like, are you
like
going
an intimidating Olympic swimmer? I don't know.
Oh, is that what it is? I was thinking more like pirate. I don't know. All right. So since you're back for this week, and I did a poor job of trying to replace you with the hair flip, give us the hair flip for this week. There it is. All right. Next to the stage, let's go ahead and bring up our resident national champion, who doesn't believe he's a national champion, Trey Neal.
Gentlemen, how you doing?
Good. You know, I hate it when you say that every single week because we're not gentlemen.
You're not a gentleman?
No.
Actually,
if you read that.
Don't worry. I'm going to mention something that you said on for our text talks about.
Oh, boy. Remember, we are E for everyone. Remember that.
It's E.
It's E. Okay. As long as it's E for everyone. All right. Next up, we've got Ben Stout. Ben, welcome back to the show. Fresh off a weekend of football and watching your son play. Welcome back, my friend.
Yeah, what's up, guys? Good to be back for another week. I'm glad we're 2-0 and we're going into conference this week.
Yep, I love it. And, I'm excited. I think this team, I'm telling you, the one big question mark I had was KJ, and he went from like a 54 PFF to a 91 in 1 week. So I don't know what happened. Maybe he got some more Waffle House. Maybe we'll talk about that a little later. But last but not least, but always last, Josh Lazar.
Don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years, rocking my peers, putting suckers in fear, making the tears rain down like a monsoon. Listen to the bass go boom explosion. Overpowering over the competition. I'm towering wrecking shops. When I drop these lyrics, I'll make you call the cops. Don't you dare stare. You better move. Don't ever compare me to the rest that are all getting sliced and diced. Competition paying the price.
All right. Josh is bringing the energy this week.
Little KJ
All right.
energy. I don't know.
Look at that.
Dude, I don't know.
It's like, you're being too loud.
Well, for those
you
of
need
you
to calm down.
Well, hey. For those of you that have not checked out our Shorts channel, make sure you check out our Shorts channel because Josh, he may or may not have gone to Waffle House after what was a rainy and fun evening.
Very much so.
All right. Well, first segment's up. As always, we're going to do a little text talk. So I'm not going to pick on Trey first. I'm going to go straight to Ben because I'm a little afraid of what he's going to say. So maybe
probably a good idea. Because mine's pretty simple this week. It was right after, I think it was his fourth touchdown. It might have been his third, but it was after the Wild Harvey package that RJ Harvey had. That's what Alan said, Wild Harvey. And then Roger, you said Gus is setting up RJ Harvey for the Heisman. And I think that's something that we're going to talk a lot about over the course of this season and over the course of this show, just how much RJ is not only being utilized within this offense, but just how incredible he's doing so far this season. And man, I hope he can keep it up because we got one of the best in the country in our backfield and total backfield. I think might be one of the best combined running back rooms in the country.
I don't think it's a might. I think
I should say it might be the best. Actually, yeah. It's definitely not a might that we're one of the best.
Yeah, I think I personally think that that our running back room is the best. Now, here's the crazy thing. We were talking about those 100+ yard games, which RJ had another one. He only had 19 carries this week. He only had 12 last week. So, and you heard Gus talk about this. They're making a concerted effort to keep the carries off of him, but they're certainly feeding him until he gets to a certain point, and then they're pulling him for someone else. Yeah. So that Wild Harvey was a 2 times in a row Wild Harvey to make sure he got that touchdown. I'll tell you that right now. All right, Josh. Wait, you go last. Trey. All right, go ahead. Lay it on me, bro.
No, pause.
Oh my God.
Mine was going to be Alan saying, because he's not here, Wild Harvey. I mean, we've talked about it, I think, last year on this show and then the year before that. When we get in Wildcat, we're not handing the ball off to the jet man. We're running. The running back is getting the ball. Now, whether it's just direct run or a counter or some power, that's to be said. But the jet man is just a decoy to make the defense honest. And then my other one was Roger made a
here we go.
Comment. The D is so good and physical. Listen.
No pause.
There was multiple pauses on the text talk this week, and that was definitely one of the better ones.
Multiple pauses on the text talk this week. As us on the pod, we got to clean it up. The guys
I just saw my last one.
They got to clean it up every week, so we got to clean it up a little bit in the text talk because Roger is not giving us the best look right now. But those are my
just to be 100% clear, I was talking about our defense, but that's okay. I see where you took that. Gutter minds abound in the text talk thread. So I almost literally cried when you said that. I don't know if those of you that are watching YouTube, like I'm almost crying. That was pretty funny out of context. Yeah. So Josh, I think, had one too. If you can find that.
Yeah, I got it. I'll lead with that. So I have a couple.
Go ahead, Josh.
So anyone who attended that game and for the 1,000 or so that stayed to the end of the fourth quarter in double zeros, had water on them for most of the game. So I think right at the end there, after all these Wild Harveys and all this stuff, I went to Waffle House and I said I'm still wet from the game, which is true. I was sopping wet. So anyway,
pause.
So real talk. one was in all caps, and I don't know why. I had some reception issues. I usually don't in the stadium. Well, I had some reception issues, and in all caps I said, "I see a fullback." And it was interesting because it actually was Evan Morris. It was a tight end who was playing the fullback role. If you watch this again, if you were watching towards the end of the game, the last maybe fourth quarter drives, you'll see a couple of times where Penny Boone is following someone, typically through the offensive line, and we have someone, a tight end, running that fullback type of position. And I watched multiple times of that just to see if what I was seeing was true, because I don't remember seeing that in the Gus Malzahn offense, or at least recently. And I'm like, yep, that's exactly it. And he did a kickoff, and it almost went into the cabanas. So Gus talked about that on the presser as well after the game. So that was one. And to wrap up the whole opening, I went to Waffle House after the game. Is something a friend of mine and I do after the games when it's enough time and we don't get.
So hold on, is your friend Gus Malzahn and you totally been holding out on us?
No. My friend Kevin, shout out to Kevin. He usually takes my second seat. I mean, I met Kevin at midnight in 2014 at New Year's Eve, but we watched the Baylor lose the next day. We actually were in New Year's Eve in In-N-Out Burger, actually. So yeah, we've been friends for some time. He's in the same fraternity me as UCF. And anyway, we were at the Waffle House. No one cares about that. We were at Waffle House, and I'll do the whole story now. Is that okay, Roger? Is that fine?
Sure.
Permitted? Sure. So we're in Waffle House. We're done with all of our food. I'm sitting up there waiting to check out. I turn behind me. I'm like, that's a tall dude. And then I look at his shirt and says it has UCF in one. I'm like, that can't be KJ, can it? So I pay, and I'm thinking about it. And he goes and hugs like the manager. So Auntie is her nickname. And so I know that person's been there, and I walk outside and I see a car with a Mississippi plate. And I'm like, I said, not going to be that fan. KJ's at the Waffle House. So I was a little shocked, and I just, yeah, I could have said hi or done something. It's like, nah, I'm not going to do that. I just don't want to be that fan. But I typically go to Waffle House after home games. So if it happens again, we'll see. So yeah, KJ followed us. I'll probably have to go to the Waffle House because he was not parked to stay.
Well, I will say this: he probably got that order for free after that win. So super excited for him. But
he could afford it, though. If he didn't get it for free, he could definitely afford it.
Well, part of the thing was I didn't expect KJ to be at Waffle House out of the game. I thought there's this whole nutrition area and bars and like all this food and all the shakes you could.
Bro, he's listed at 247 and is probably like 255. He's not stopping by the nutrition center after the game. Come on. Did you see how much he was sweating after the first three times he carried the ball? I mean, that poor guy.
It was kind of muggy.
I was watching the game at my buddy's house, and he said, and he like in the first quarter, he says, is your quarterback like sick? Is he like, there's something wrong with? Because he sometimes he just like, they cut to him and his face like fills up the helmet so much that it just looks like he's just like drenched.
And I know we're going to get back into the actual game in just a second. I will say this: I didn't see that. But because of the rain and my fear of getting Boise Stated again, which was standing in the Cabana line for like 3 hours to get in, I got in the stadium like an hour early. And so I was on the rail on the Cabanas watching the team practice. And in practice, he was sharp. So was Dylan too, right? I didn't see Brown warm up. Maybe I wasn't there at that point, but I mean, when we saw that first quarter and even first half last week, every out, every short pass, everything was really good. And yes, I was looking specifically at KJ because out of all the things that happened last game, that was the only one we had a real question mark about. Again, I know FCS competition, but every pass was crisp, and even some of the things they were practicing, like pitches on like an RPO. I saw them actually doing in the game, so I know we'll get into more of the game stuff. But what practice usually translates onto the field, any sport, any type of competition, and even the practice right before the game, he was sharp.
Yeah, Gus said he had the best week of practice that he's seen out of him this past week.
He seemed focused. That was the big thing. Let's go ahead and go into the regular football talk. I mean, so the things that I saw out of KJ that impressed me is one, his reads. Two, not only was he reading, he was, climbing the pocket like he was supposed to. His runs were a lot less. How should I say this? They were more calculated. Let's put it that way. It was less about, hey, I'm bigger than you, so I'm just going to run you over. But he was making the right reads on the RPOs. He's going to his second and third read. He's using his tight ends. And there were 2 to 3 plays that I saw where he was, looking at reading the defense pre-snap. And then he knew where that blitz was coming from. So he would go to, I think it was a tight end pass where he hit Pittman because he saw that they were crashing down from that side and blitzing from that side. So he knew he would have a mismatch on that side. So, for me, that was the biggest thing. He looked comfortable. His passes were on target. He wasn't throwing 75 feet above people in the air. And his long bombs, I mean, other than the fact that it's funny because I watch his passes and they're a lot like Dylan Gabriel's. They're those long passes or those rainbow type throws that, allow the receiver to adjust, get underneath them, and then hit them in stride. And that's what I really liked too, was he was hitting them in stride. Whereas last game, he was not. Receivers were having to stop and try to come back for balls. He knew where he was going with the ball. When he knew pre-snap what he was going to do with the ball and where the openings were going to be. And, this was the polished quarterback mentally that I was looking for. And physically, his passing game was much, much improved. So very, very, very impressed and happy and feel a whole heck of a lot better about the season after this game. I was expecting improvement. I wasn't expecting that drastic of a difference because usually you don't see that. And that was a completely different player that we saw. And we knew he was capable of it because we saw it in 21 and 22. But, I know Gus has said no contact and whatever, but he also got better as the game went on, which was also another thing. And I told you guys last week, we were working out the kinks in the running game last week. This week, it was about making sure that we worked on the passing game and got some of that in. And Kobe Hudson, over 100 yards, other than that face mask call, which was like, oh my goodness, dude, you had him beat. You didn't need to do that. And it was a pretty good passing performance. So what did you guys think about KJ this week?
Yeah, real quick. I just was, I think at the end of the last podcast, I had said, like, I don't need to see like a complete huge jump forward. I just need to give us like an understanding that he's like here and ready to play. And he's going to provide that foundation for this season. And that's what I really saw this game. You look at the stat sheet, it's not like he had to, really, provide some sort of like eye-popping game from a stat standpoint because like I said, he didn't have to. But I think sharp is a good word that Josh just used earlier when we talk about KJ Jefferson. He just seemed to make the right reads. He seemed much more comfortable in the offense. And it's something that even RJ Harvey said during his post-game press conference. RJ, Mr. T Harvey, because he had like about 18 gold chains on his.
Hey, it's the 18, baby. It's the 18.
Yeah, and he said that somebody asked him about KJ's performance and just how he improved from week 1 to week 2, and one of the things that he said is just he had such better energy this week, but also he just seemed to be much more comfortable in the offense, and that was very evident. It kind of I don't know. I mean, I understand that you have to get into game reps and you have to get into the game scenarios, and it's hard to simulate, especially when you're a quarterback and not being touched all off season. But it is a little bit confusing. That like he has all of a sudden has command of the offense. I mean, why just now? But regardless, I thought he had a very strong performance, and seeing his accuracy go from below 50% and then go to 12 from 15, and one of those being an absolute dime that he threw down the sideline to Kobe Hudson that was pulled back. I mean, that could have been 13 for 15 for a good over 200 yards probably. So that was, it was a strong performance, and it's definitely something you want to see going into our first road game of the season and our first conference game of the season.
Yeah. And for you to say that, right, he only threw 15 times.
Right. Only 15 times. Yeah.
So it was efficient, and he pulled the ball when it needed to be pulled, read the defense properly. And then it was funny because, I told you guys this part of the text talk. I told you they were going to, I think I said this last game too, is that they were going to try to make us one-dimensional by bringing all kinds of blitzes and, force us to throw, because they thought after that performance with KJ last week, I'm sure they looked at the tape and were like, got him. Right. So, they tried it, and KJ read it. He dumped the ball off when he needed to. He got the ball in space where he needed to. There was a throw over the middle. There was a couple throws over the middle that were enough velo, put it right in the breadbasket where only the receiver could catch it. So it was ball placement was good. He read the defense well. He knew where he was going with it before. And that's what you expect out of a senior quarterback that was a Heisman dark horse going into 2023. Was a Heisman dark horse as a junior. So, he was efficient. And then the other thing is 11.3 yard average, which is pretty solid for passing, and 50 yards with 5.7 yards per carry. So not only do you have a quarterback that's pretty efficient there, but when he does get the ball and he does get touches, we're not losing anything. I mean, UCF's rushing average was 6.7 as a team, right? Which is pretty impressive, number one. But, if you throw your quarterback in the mix and he's bringing almost 6 yards per carry, that's pretty solid. So, Trey, interested to hear your thoughts on KJ. What did you see? Because I thought he played
terrible. No, he played very clean, and like Ben said, he played clean and efficient. And with our running attack, that's really what we need again. And with the 12-team playoff, us being in one of the power conferences, a win, I'm taking any win we get. I don't care how we have to do it.
Hey, we've got 0.6% of a chance of a national championship right now, which is good for top, I think, 32 in chances for winning a national championship right now.
There we go.
Listen, I would have bet that if they would have let me in Vegas.
But, yeah, I mean, just talking a little bit about it, the run game I think it's already at top tier peak scheme, peak play calling, peak efficiency. RJ Harvey is on track to probably win Big 12 Player of the Year. And depending on how our season goes, he might be in the Heisman talks. I mean, he's at 7 touchdowns through 2 games. It's crazy. And he's doing it efficiently. It's not like he's just getting – I mean, it seems like he's getting a lot of touches, but he's really not getting the workload that you see these other elite guys like, Ollie Gordon. He's getting 20 to 25, 30 touches a game. Ashton Genty, the kid from Boise State, 30 touches a game. RJ's doing it at half the volume, and I think that's what makes it extremely impressive. And that's credit to Gus, too. I mean, like I said, the play calling, the scheme of it, beautiful. I mean, he's mixing it up. He's keeping defenses off balance because it's so many different types of runs. It's so many different types of players who can do it with KJ, with Johnny Richardson, with RJ, his style. Then you mix in Miles Montgomery, his style. And we haven't even really seen Penny Boone. He brings another dynamic. So, the run game to me is top tier shape. The pass game is very vanilla. Now, is that by design because we've played, Sam Houston in New Hampshire? Maybe. I think right now I would like to see a little bit more involvement than just Kobe Hudson's really getting the passes. X is kind of getting a lot of the reverses. It's kind of vanilla as far as getting our wide receivers involved. That's what I wouldn't say worried, but that's just what I've seen from 2 games. I'd like to see a little bit more from not just those 2, but even more guys. We talked about in the spring, I think Gus talked about, all these guys these freshmen, and then you get into fall camp and these transfers that we bring in. Where are they? And I think I don't want our team to be like, for example, what I worry about personally is you look at Oklahoma State last year, heavy run team. What did they do when we played them? We took the runaway and they couldn't do anything else, because they had been all season just run Ollie Gordon. Let's run Ollie Gordon, run Ollie Gordon. I don't want that to kind of hinder us when we get to that point, because we're about to start conference play and we're about to get into the meat and potatoes of the season. Good teams, as a lot of these teams are, they're going to take away what you do best, or they're going to try to. They're going to use all their resources to stop RJ Harvey, stop KJ in the run game, and say, hey, beat us in the pass. How many reps have we really gotten of just like, all right, this is our pass game outside of practice, just versus live teams? I don't know. Hopefully it changes. That's just my concern. But overall, I think the offense looked great. KJ played clean and efficient, like Ben said.
It sounds like you're talking more about the wide receivers getting those reps more so than KJ, which is understandable. I mean, if you look at the stats with Xavier Townsend had 5.7 yards per catch, and he had 12.8 yards per rush.
More rushes. You would think we were running like almost a triple option kind of, Navy Army type of thing, because our receivers are running the ball better than they're catching. And that could be by design. I don't know. I want to be versatile. I mean, you look at our best years, even with, starting with Coach O'Leary, 2013, the Fiesta Bowl year. We could throw it, and then we could give it to Storm and stand back and run the ball. You look at the Coach Frost years. We could throw it all around the ballpark, but we could give it to, Adrian Killens, Jawan Hamilton, Otis. We could run the football, and then McKenzie would mix it up a little bit. I think that's where you truly keep teams off balance. I think right now we're just keeping them off balance with different types of runs. If teams can be sound deep, most of the team, just with so much motion we do, all the playmakers, if teams play sound, you can play, you should be able to make plays. Now, RJ will still make you miss maybe. But I just want to see a little bit more variety in the offense, a little bit more variety in it for me.
So I have a quick question. So we had 5 players have more than 50 yards rushing in this game. With all the different ways we are attacking a run, does that substitute for any of the traditional passing offense that we might need in the future? Or is this all we still need to start like really bombing over the heads with Kobe?
Josh,
I guess I don't know if we need to bomb over the heads. It's just because, for example, say we just run a normal play and it's a TFL or KJ, like week 1, he just slips and throws the ball, just falls out of his hand. If we're in 2nd and 14, which it happened a few times, or even a false start, now we're behind the sticks. You have to have a pass game to kind of catch it up. Now, our run game still, RJ could pop off a 10-yard run and put us back in good shape. But just when we play these better teams, you don't want to be behind the sticks. You don't want to – and if you are playing behind the sticks, you want to be able to. You want to be confident in it. I don't know how confident we would say how would we feel if, hey, KJ, you got to go back and throw 35 times a game? How confident do we feel right now? I wouldn't feel uber confident because not just for KJ, but outside of Kobe Hudson and X, who we're throwing to. Roger, go ahead.
Yeah, so a few things. To answer your question, Trey, it was right around 30 passes so far. So 30 passing reps if you don't count the penalties, right? Because those brought back 4 or 5 of those just this game alone. That first series was ugly from a penalties perspective, right? Now, as far as what Gus is doing, one, I don't see characteristic Gus trick plays, so that's pretty cool, right?
Not yet. You don't
Yeah,
see it.
Yeah. Wait till the games get a little closer.
Yeah.
So, the thing that I see more this year, and Gus knows he's got a hammer in the running back room, right? And what he does, if you watch, you talked about the motion. We run a lot of motion, but we run different plays out of that motion. It's the same way as the Frost years. You remember that, Trey? We would run the same play over and over and over again, and then we would pop it for something different and lull the defenses to sleep. And then we'd have a big play. I think that's what Gus is doing, is he's running different things out of that same running attack and that running motion. And that way we can pop it to a tight end, slip a tight end down, do whatever. He's also using tight ends more than what we were using in the past. We're also using crossing patterns. So if you notice, Kobe's not running go routes the entire time like Javon Baker and Kobe were last year, right? He's about mid-range of the field. We're actually able to use that a little bit more. And you've got slants that we're using as well. So what I see out of at least the early part of this season is we're going to go heavy on run. We're going to try to confuse them with the run. If they stop the run, then we're going to pop it out to a tight end. The offensive line's good enough for us to not use the tight end all the time to be able to block for the running back, and slip the tight end out and pass it out to him, or hit with a crossing pattern or a quick slant. So that's what I'm more seeing out of this. I'm seeing this as being purposeful. And instead of having Javon Baker out there on a go route for 50, 60 yards and then dropping something into the breadbasket, we're being more and doing that on a more consistent basis. We want the base run game. We want to be able to set that up to get the defense in the box, and then get them to the tight end or someone which we weren't confident. More power to Alex Holler, great dude, but he's not the receiver that Pittman's going to be, right? So even the first game I saw going to tight ends a little bit more as well. So for me, that's what I'm seeing. If I'm looking at it from an offensive analysis, I'm seeing, hey, we're gonna show the same motion. We're gonna do different things. If they start loading the box up, then we're gonna drop it off to a running back in the flat, or we're gonna drop it off to a tight end that slipped out in the seam, or we're gonna do a crossing route, etc. So that we can get the ball out quickly if KJ makes the reads, because he's going to make the hot reads initially based on what the formation is, and then he's going to drop it off to that hot read pretty quickly, which is different than what JRP's skill set was. JRP last year had maybe 2 reads, right? He was also being coached. We found out later in the offseason that he was being coached to only do 2 reads and then tuck it and run. So it's a different scheme, a different way of looking at it. And I feel like Gus is really leaning on this because of what happened last season, in the sense that the Big 12 is expected this season, again, with the top 8 rushing running backs in the league or in the country in this league, that he's getting ready for those close games that are going to be not a ton of possessions. But if we need to run the power run game, we can run the power run game with the 4 running backs that we have, and then pop it off if we need to, if they start crowding the box. That was my take, and that's my read on the 2 weeks of scheme that I've been watching, is he's getting ready for those close game situations, which we weren't prepared for last year. Our other option for a mismatch was just to throw a 50-50 ball, which has probably about a 30% chance of grabbing that ball with Javon Baker. The other thing I don't see a lot of, even with Sam Houston, I don't see a lot of separation by our receivers, whether it's Kobe or anybody else. I'm not seeing them getting a ton of. So if that's the case, then and Gus knows that, it would make more sense for him to do, lean on his strength, which is the running game, lean on his tight end to be able to slip the tight end out, because he can move. Like once you watch Pittman, once he catches the ball, he can move. So that's more of what I'm seeing, and that's what I'm thinking is the game behind the game right now, and what he's prepping for the Big 12 based on the experience that we had last year. But you can tell that Gus has his fingerprints all over this offense, and he was hard at work this offseason getting us ready. That's what I saw.
This is 2009 Cam Newton offense. That's exactly what he's running. All the same motions, a lot of the quarterback power. You know, we weren't really comfortable running JRP up the middle, you know, because he was more injury prone. Just from
JRP was comfortable running JRP up the middle.
Oh, of course, but his body was not.
By the way, he was at the game this weekend.
Yeah. His body's not. It's just the physicality that the toll it takes was not built to do it. KJ, I mean, as Josh alluded, and like you said, Roger, he might be listed at 247. He's probably pushing 255, 260 and he's agile. Like, he's very quick footed. It's just the long speed isn't going to be there just because he's a big boy. But the physicality he brings in those runs is a night and day difference than what JRP can do. It's just, for me, the receiving, the routes are just a little too simplistic. You talk about like the separation. You can't run just basic like a curl or a slant. There's got to be a little bit more creativity to the route concepts for the receivers. I think, like you said, he's leaking out the tight ends. I think there is creativity just because they're so involved in the run game. Just the receivers, I think we're going to need them. You have to throw in this league and just college football.
Well, you also already mentioned it earlier on, Trey, is that, you know, is this by design? Are we just not showing? I mean, we know who the first two opponents were, right? Like, yes. So, and even
hold on.
Gus said it.
Ben,
right.
Sam Houston beat Rice.
Yeah.
I mean, these are the Giants players.
Right, yeah. No, but Gus even mentioned it in his. I don't know if he meant to talk about it or say the words, but I mean, I'm pretty sure I heard the words like vanilla or we're not trying to show much in the passing game. Like he said, we're holding back in the passing game, but
that's good to hear.
I think the important thing is that, and what he was trying to accomplish with this game is to just get KJ in like a rhythm of the offense. And as we've all talked about already, I mean, that I think mission accomplished on that front. But yeah, we're not trying to show TCU, Florida, even Colorado. I mean, we're not trying to show these teams that are coming up on our schedule really anything as creative as what they're going to see when they play us. I mean, we're not going to, we don't need that against Sam Houston. We don't need that against New Hampshire. We can run the ball down those teams' throat and look vanilla. So hopefully that's what those teams think we are. I think, Roger, though, you brought up some really good points about like kind of the, let's call it subtle creativity that we've seen so far out of this offense. And so you kind of, with KJ with a little bit better game under his belt, like a lot more rhythm, seems to be a little more comfortable in this offense. It can only kind of pay dividends as they start to expand that playbook and show us as fans, show their opponents in the future just what this offense is capable of beyond the run game. So that's exciting as long as that comes to fruition and as long as that's what they're intending on doing, which I believe that's the case.
Well, the other thing, too, is what I've seen a lot more of, and Trey, you probably have picked up on this as well. We're very much more George O'Leary-like with our receivers as far as their blocking. They're finishing plays. They're not just, okay, if they know it's not going their way, they're not stopping blocking, right? Like we saw last year.
Yeah.
And it seems to me like a lot of that is set up to because when you see that with wide receivers, I watched a lot of games this weekend, and a lot of the power teams, they'll stop before the ball is even handed off to the running back. Sometimes stop blocking because they know the ball isn't coming to their side of the field. But what does that telegraph to the defense? If you see a wide receiver that's just hanging out there and not doing anything, and he's just stopping, it ain't going to that side of the field, right? So if I'm a safety,
that was his note. That's what he teaches his receivers to do. It's more strategy in the sense there's no point to waste the route, like your rep or waste energy. But yeah, guys will literally just jog off the line and watch the play.
Well, and Heupel's, and Frost for that matter. I mean, those guys are running 90 to 100.
Yeah, they want their players to rest.
You know what I mean?
Those are reps to rest, correct?
Yeah, that's not what we're doing right now. So
no, and
we're ball control all the way.
We in the middle of the game, I might have been the text talk that didn't come through. I said that this is like Josh Reese level of downfield blocking, and I don't know if everyone who's listening has watched that 2014 Baylor versus UCF game. The downfield blocking in that game was elite, like people getting blocked into the back of the end zone level of elite. And Storm and others might not have gotten to the heights of their running or their other routes if all 11 players on the field weren't doing their job to the best ability that they could. And that was happening against Sam Houston. Like I saw a couple of, and so did you, Roger, you calling it out. So really, really good downfield blocking that easily added 10, 15 yards after the catch. So and I'd like to see what happens in TCU. Remember that cautiously optimistic from last week?
Yeah, but what I like and what I think is different is that if you're seeing that kind of level of work against Sam Houston, then you're not going to have to wait for that, when you get into the TCUs or whatever, right? If they're doing that already, that's mental reps there. It's physical reps there. It's muscle memory there. And it's just going to be one of those things where, we're playing TCU, so I need to make sure that I'm blocking downfield. No, you do it on every rep.
Right.
You get better every rep that you do it.
Becomes part of the culture, which is great, And,
I was going to save this for when we talked about the defense, but I'll make this comment real quickly on that too, and we can explore that too. Two things that I heard. Randy Pittman said they were there. The team was already there all weekend, and they were already there on their day off. Getting in his press conference, he was like, "I was impressed by the team. They're in doing film study. They're doing. They're getting healed up. They're going and getting their working with a physical therapist and all that stuff for next week. In addition to that, if you watch during the game, McMillan said after one of his touchdowns or one of his interceptions, which, by the way, when we get to the defense, we'll talk about that. One of the things he said is, we saw that all week. We're on top of our film study. I knew we dropped the secondary back because we knew that's where they were going to go. And that's why I got the pick. Right. So he didn't say it exactly verbatim that way, but that's what he said in his comments. Right. So that tells,
right? You're talking about McWilliams?
Yeah, McWilliams. Sorry. Yeah. Mac McWilliams. So I don't know why I said McMillan. Whatever. McWilliams, McDonald's, whoever. He said after his pick that he said it on the TV camera, literally on the broadcast, that he was talking to the camera, like, when you're after the celebration, he basically made comments that said, "Hey, we saw that in film study, blah, 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 blah." So what that tells me is that even against Sam Houston State, right, our guys are preparing the way that they should. They're in there for film study. You combine that with what Randy Pittman said, they are prepping the way that they should, and that's what we were looking for, right? And they're doing it on their own, without the coaching staff telling them. So that bodes well. If they're prepping that way for Sam Houston, they're going to definitely prep that way for TCU.
That speaks to what Gus keeps saying throughout any type of press availability. Is just he keeps talking about the experience that these players have. They don't have the collective experience, meaning together they don't have that experience, but I guess the collective is actually the right word to use, because overall they've played a lot of quality football. We've got some veterans on this team that may not be veterans of UCF, but they're certainly no stranger to college football in general. And that type of if you can find the right combination of guys, which it appears with situations like you're describing, Roger, we have found a little bit of that. that's where it just sets the culture for at least this season where, it's a winning mentality. It's one that nobody is afraid to put in the extra effort. Nobody's too cool for, the greater good of the team. And then just one last thing I was going to say, because I wanted to throw in the comment when we were talking about the downfield blocking is one of the things I heard Gus say this week was and I appreciated it as a basketball guy, is like we really teach these guys to play without the ball, and that's not really a phrase that I've heard often that a football coach would say. I mean, that's something that's a term that's very familiar, a phrase that's very familiar in the basketball world. You talk about guys like Reggie Miller or Steph Curry, just how well they move without the ball, but obviously in the context of football, what Gus was talking about is wide receivers sacrificing, not being involved in a play from a catching the football standpoint. They're involved in a play from blocking for a teammate, and they each seem to understand that their block, their extra effort could be the difference between a 12-yard gain and a 52-yard touchdown. And so that's what's exciting to see, because it's not just how great our running backs are, how great RJ Harvey is, and how good in run blocking our offensive line has the potential to be. Some of these runs that we've been seeing, some of the dynamic football that we've been seeing from our running game could be attributed to a block that is not shown on the broadcast from one of our wide receivers.
Well, I will say this. I mean, it goes back to, and I don't remember the specific saying, but this goes back to the George O'Leary years, and you mentioned the 2013-2014 season, Josh. If you're not blocking, you're not going to get
no block, no rock.
Yeah, no block, no rock. That's what it was. So, I think that's what we're seeing, and that level of aggression. Nobra just popped in there, did a little swimming lesson for those of you not watching on YouTube. That being said, that's that and that level of aggression, and we'll talk about the defense here in a minute. All right, so let's talk a little bit about stats. Obviously, UCF wins 45-14 at the Bounce House. 554 yards of total offense. Had some of those completions not been pulled back early on, for penalties, that would have been over 600 yards of total offense again for week 2. 304 rushing yards, 6.7 yards per carry. And here's the thing about that. I'm just going to go down the list. RJ Harvey, 6.6. Penny Boone, 5.4, which, by the way, we didn't see much of Penny Boone, but he still was second on the list in total yards, 10 for 54. Miles Montgomery, he was 9 carries, 5.7 average. Xavier Townsend, 4 carries, 12.8 yards per carry. KJ, 5.6. Jacurri, 2 carries, 16 yards. Johnny Richardson, 2 for 19 for 9.5 average. And then Dylan Rizk, I still can't say that right, 3.0. So, the running game was phenomenal. Again, puts us in the top offenses in the country. UCF allowed only 287 yards. Sam Houston only had 68 yards rushing. And a lot of that, let's be honest, was in the third and late in the third and early in the fourth, when everybody had their 2s and 3s in. Limited them to 5 for 12 on third downs. 5 for 12 on third downs. Now, for UCF, on the other hand, we were 8 of 13. If you can pull off 50 to 60% of your third downs, you're going to win a whole heck of a lot of games. I remember during your years, Trey, the number was 38%. If we had 38%, because I tracked that at that time on Nightline, if we had 38 to 40% of our third downs, and 38 was the real number, we won the game. And that was because you had so many reps going in there offensively. So UCF also forced 2 turnovers, 2 more interceptions, one from McWilliams and one from Sheldon Arnold. Both of those guys were in position, ready to go. Again, we'll see what they do against Power 4 teams. But that was just phenomenal. Phenomenal offense, phenomenal defense, and let's talk a little bit about the defense. Again, our secondary coming through, getting the turnovers that we needed. We got a strip fumble as well. We've told you in the offseason, and we told you again, about Nigel Kelly. He really made his presence felt in this game. Stand-up pass rusher, faster than TMB. Tremont Morris-Brash did really, really well last year. He was great. But this guy is way faster. He seems to be present. He's getting the backfield. He's getting off blocks. We'll see how he does because he's a little lighter. He's tall and skinny, but he's fast, and he's a fast edge rusher. Let's see how he does against stiffer competition, but he looks like the real deal so far. And
finally got a sack. Yeah. Finally got one.
Yep. He was the one who got it too.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the defensive line, since we're talking about D-line, 7 tackles for a loss. And I can tell you this now, Lee Hunter, you're not hearing his name a lot. He's getting double teamed all over the place. It's opening the door for other people to get pressure. And more importantly, it's stopping anybody from running through the A gap. I mean, nobody's running through that line right now. We'll see how they do again later, right? But against better teams. But so far, this D-line is everything that it's cracked up to be. And, Sam Houston as well as New Hampshire were trying to get either they were tucking and running, right? Or they were showing they were throwing the ball very, very quickly as soon as the snap was over. It was one read and then the ball was gone. There's a reason for that, and that's your D-line. Those guys are going to be a problem for people. What else do we want to go over? I saw Ziri Alexander did get the start over Deshaun Pace, which was interesting. Did you guys think that was did that surprise you? I mean, he played well. Ziri Alexander played really, really well. Transfer. What did you guys think about that? Did you guys catch that at all?
I didn't catch it.
I didn't catch it until Gus was literally asked about that. His last question, I think he was asked, and he breezed past it as a veteran coach would. But he said, "Yeah, I guess that happened." He wasn't in there on the first possession, but he was in there on the next possession. So he just kind of breezed past it.
That was probably something like he probably was late to a meeting on Saturday morning or Friday night.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Wouldn't be surprised if that was the case, and especially the way he answered the question too.
Yeah. It wasn't Larry. You're seeing the whole game, Kevin Smith, when we really need you. I don't feel like that's a Gus Malzahn type of move.
Yeah, when Kevin Smith was your entire offense and you sat him, you know what I mean?
I know.
That's a little different.
What's interesting is Alexander, I think, led the team in tackles and a couple of other things also on top of it all, if I remember correctly. So Deshaun Pace is the starter. I'm sure it's something that happened behind the scenes, and we're going to hear nothing about it again. I hope.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about defensive stats, Ziri Alexander, 6 total tackles. Quadric Bullard quietly having a good season. 6 tackles. Nigel Kelly, 6 tackles, 2 for a loss, one sack, and 1 tackle for a loss. Josiah Pierre, the other linebacker we brought in, 5 tackles, 2 solos. And then you had Dalen Dotson, 3 tackles, 2 solos, 1.5 sacks. Brian Threats. I don't know why I keep saying Byron. I think the media keeps saying it. He had a sack.
Why it just throws you off a little bit.
It's dyslexia. Javarius Johnson, he had a sack, and then TJ Bullard had a half a sack. So, tackle for a loss. So 7 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 51 total tackles. And here's the important part: 33 solos. Right. So over half of those tackles were solo tackles, which means we're getting them down on first contact. They're not running through the contact. Second thing about the defense is, I don't know about y'all, but I'm loving hearing the helmets when we're tackling. We're not just tackling for contact. We're tackling them. Form tackle, put your shoulder through their chest. They're trying to punish them, which is good. And that's size, and that's also like just different tackling. I mean, the aggressiveness of this defense from how Ted Roof's coaching them to how we're tackling. This defense is aggressive. They're not afraid to tackle. They're not just going for a knee. They are truly taking them on one-on-one.
So 5 minutes and 27 seconds left in the game. Sam Houston, they completed it was actually a penalty. It was actually a penalty on 3rd and 2, and Sam Houston started with 1st and 10 on the 47-yard line. And that was the first time all game that they had made it to the other end, or our half of the field. So obviously they had the long touchdown in the first half. And so if you just kind of take that play out of it, because that drive wasn't a drive past the 50. That was the first time that they it was 6 minutes and 44 seconds left in the fourth quarter. That was the first time they had made it past the 50. So I think that just displays, in a team that we should have beaten pretty handily, and we did. With our third string in the game, they finally made it past the 50-yard line. And I think what that shows is some of the things that we've all touched on, but you've touched on, Roger, throughout our conversation here, is just, it kind of shows how like we're taking these opponents seriously, in the sense of like, we're not trying to just mess around in these first 2 weeks. Like our defense especially just seems like they're so locked in. I mean, that's just what I've noticed. They just look so focused. They look like they're just really taking this game, taking every possession, every play so seriously that like they want to like, they don't just want to like get by and win by a little bit. Like they want to shut the other team down. And that type of mentality that we're seeing is just, it just makes the rest of this season and the outlook on it not trying to put too much on, because we understand who we've played the first 2 weeks, and we understand it's going to be much tougher coming up next week. But seriously, it's exciting to see how focused they look as a unit.
They're not getting as many opportunities. I mean, think about it. I mean, they're not tired. It's not Baylor where it's the fourth quarter and they're getting wore down. I mean, we've got people rotating. The offense is clicking. They're finishing, which is the biggest problem last year. And that's something we talked about. It was red zone offense. Sure. You had a top 10, most of the time, top 5 offense in the entire country. But from a scoring offense, we were way down. So we were moving the ball, but we weren't finishing. This year, the difference is we're finishing. Now, again, so far, and take it with a grain of salt. Right. But then I turn around and I look at all the other games against FCS or Conference USA or Sun Belt or anybody else, and I'm looking and I'm like, Notre Dame, NIU, like
1.4 million to NIU to beat them in their home stadium. That's pretty interesting.
K-State and Tulane. I think Tulane's quarterback is actually, I watched that game. He's a freshman. He's going to be really, really good. But you look around the league, in the NCAA, and it's like, okay, we're saying this, we're taking it with a grain of salt, but there's a lot of people that are out there that are not, don't get to say that this week.
Yeah, there's a lot of people not taking care of business or making things closer than it needs to be. And sometimes that's even through the third quarter. Like, there are a lot of games through the third quarter. If you're watching your scroll of scores, you're like, Houston's only down by what? Right?
Penn State losing, like they were losing most of the game, like through a half.
Look, Iowa was beating Iowa State pretty handily for most of the game, and they lost at home, right? So, Iowa lost at home. So And thankfully to Iowa State made the conference look a little better. But that's just it has been an intriguing couple of weeks, right? You have all the stuff with FSU happening. I have one of my neighbors on the block. We're talking about football a smidge, and I just couldn't talk. I couldn't say, oh man, what's going on with FSU? I couldn't. I felt bad. And UCF's doing pretty all right. So you were 100% right within the scope of what's going on in college football. We should be pretty happy, and I'm still cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, cautiously optimistic is the right way to say it.
All right. So, do you guys feel like this is the most complete game that we've had in the last 2 years? We didn't even talk about Boomer or special teams, but Boomer had a really solid game. We talked about Evan Morris, kind of taking some of the pressure off of Boomer with kickoffs, which seems to me like Evan Morris has got a leg on him. So, hey, keep trotting him out there.
One through the end zone.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that almost went on the cabanas in one hop. Like, yeah. It might have. So
our punting was good. I mean, our return game's good. There wasn't very many holes in this game, and it was so crazy. And I'll say this one last thing, and Josh, I'll let you go. Seeing that Conference USA badge on Sam Houston's jerseys, I think this is a unique experience to us, right? It just made me think we were those guys trying to beat the Power Four teams for a very long time. We were their fans, right? And now, Knight Nation, take a look around. We are the other guys that the Conference USA upstarts are trying to beat. So take a breath, take a moment, understand that we've arrived. Now, are we like Georgia yet? No, but we've arrived. You are playing big-time college football. You are a big-time college football program. It no longer is it the Golden Knights or Florida on the bottom of the scroll anymore. Right? We've made it. And for whatever reason, I looked at that, they zoomed in on that jersey, and it just made me think it wasn't that long ago that we were that team trying to overcome a Power Four opponent. Look at what we have now and who we are now, how vast that gap is. Mm-hmm. So go ahead, Josh. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I was trying to look up a little bit of Sam Houston, thinking of that side. I mean, they've been an NAIA, independent, Division II. They won an FCS national championship a couple years ago and are getting the call up. And they've been around since, 1912, I think I read. So, there's even way older teams than us that are still going through this journey. And a few of them have experienced multiple conferences and multiple levels. It's just that the people who were in school in 1979, many of them are still around. Most people don't experience this journey in like a generation or their own lifetimes. So I do feel like we are definitely that target, and we're definitely kind of flipped that script. And some of us have to mentally remember it wasn't that long ago. We're talking 15 years. Like our experience. I'm not even talking from 96 and whatever. Our experience with this growth is at the point where they can go out and buy alcohol, right? We're talking 20, 21, 22 years. So it's really wonderful.
Well, let's put it this way. I think Ben was like 12 years old in 96. weren't you, Ben? Or is that about 96? Right?
Yeah, I was 12 years old. Yeah.
Wow, look at that fast math. So there you go. I mean, that just kind of goes and shows.
I was a good old 6 foot 7th grader, no big deal.
Hey, I was this height. I was this height in like 7th, 8th grade. I just stopped growing. Like we went the opposite directions. You kept going, and I stopped growing. That's what the difference was.
Yeah. So
your post middle school growth from you, we just added it. I added it up in me.
Yeah. I do think this next game is going to be at TCU. I think is a very pivotal game, and we all know this, but you have think of their journey, right? Like they were not that far behind us. They were ahead of us, obviously, in getting to this space, but it wasn't like TCU was a Power 5 team 15
Actually,
years ago either.
they were a Power 5 team before they got relegated into the Mountain West, right?
Fair,
because
fair.
they were
We're talking
a SWAC team. Well,
Yeah,
it wasn't that long ago. It was when the Big 12 split off and it was created, which is about 30 years ago.
Yeah, that's
when
true.
they
If we're
lost.
talking in relative, yeah.
Yeah, that's when they lost their power status, right?
Well, so did SMU, and you look at what happened to them. So
Yeah, but SMU didn't earn it; they bought it. They literally bought it.
Well, you're right though, Josh. That in the sense that it wasn't that. It doesn't feel like that long ago where TCU is like kind of the. A team from TCU, they just got into the Big 12 and they're like kind of already making noise. They're that team from the Mountain West that just kind of exploded onto the scene. They were like right after Boise State became the disruptor. They were they passed the torch on to TCU kind of. So
no, absolutely, and I Roger, I agree with you there. I feel like in the mental fandom, right?
Yeah,
it just like they're making their way and doing really amazing things, and they're a good team. They are some of their players. It's a mix of Nil and Young. It's going to be a really good game, and I feel like this is a great test. This is a great test of where we have what we feel like, and I'll get back to this, the complete game this week, and next week we have on the road. Haven't done great so far, right? In the last couple of years, a team that 2 years from a national championship appearance.
All right, Gus Malzahn's press conference. That's what I keep hearing right now.
Right.
Literally, you hit on his first 3 points.
That's that. Maybe it's ingrained in my head.
But talking about Kendall Briles next.
Yeah.
How he coached KJ.
Yeah, as a fan, the fans wanted. We don't want to see 55-12 and remember Kansas State and all that shellacking from last year. I feel like this is really going to be the key. And all the way back to your original point, other than the first drive where we went 75 yards, yet had 105 yards of offense, that was probably the most complete game we've seen in a long time, regardless of the opponent. Everything was clicking after the first drive, and even the first drive clicked.
I'm not worried about being competitive in any phase of the game this week, which we haven't had that opportunity in several years. So whether it be QB position, linebacker position, D-line, whatever, kicking, special teams, whatever. I don't feel that. And we'll see how it goes next week, right? But I don't, or this week, because we're already game week. But but that being said, I don't feel that way. Now, I'm going to wrap this up with a bow in Alan's honor, because he does prepare the notes for us, and he loves stats, so he left a couple stats in here. Other key stats, UCF is now number 3 in the nation in total yards per game, 596.5. We would have been over 600, should have been. Number 1 in the nation in rushing yards per game at 419 per game. I feel like Navy right now. UCF number 1 in the Big 12 in total yards, number 2 in the Big 12 in defensive points allowed, 8.5 points per game. 4th in total yards allowed per game, 224. That's saying something, right? Number 2 in Big 12 in rushing yards allowed per game at 67 yards per game. Funny enough, so Josh, a funny fact of the week, 67 yards this week, 67 yards last week, which was interesting that it was on the nose. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about recap our score predictions. Score predictions for this week. All right. So for last week, who was closest to the pin? So just to recap, the game finished out with a win, and the score was 45 to
14.
14.
That's right. So closest to the pin, Trey, 49-17. So pretty darn close. You were a grand total of 7 points off. Alan, 42-17. So he closest to the Pinju. Then I'm going to go with me next, 48-10. I think that we, had KJ not had that fumble turnover, I think we would have been in good shape there. Ben, 35-17. You were a little low on your
furthest. It was the furthest away. Now I did say that I was happy to be wrong in that prediction, and I'm glad I was.
All right. So Nobra on the other hand, 46-18. So not that far off. 6 points. That's pretty darn good.
You're really
right?
mathing live. I'm impressed. That's all.
What's that?
You're mathing live.
I am. That's that German engineering brain coming out. And then we've got Josh. Now, Josh this week, 48-13. That's why he's been dancing this entire time and why I went slow. And if you guys are watching, I'm not sure if you want to watch that dancing right now, but it is happening. So he was definitely closest to the pin this week, but not by
so
much.
Excited about Sam Houston week.
We're
gonna be talking about it. He's gonna be talking about it like Uncle Rico with the state champion.
or the Cows with their number 2 for 14 straight years.
I thought it was close, and then I actually checked in the Waffle House just to see. Like I thought it was close, and I'm like, wow. And I will tell you, other than Ben, we all were pretty darn close.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I was off this week.
Yeah, so this is definitely Josh's victory lap. So, all right. So Trey, do you have anything to yell at this week, or are you good? Are you Gucci, bro?
Yeah, there's nothing to yell at. I thought this was like Josh said. I think this was probably the most complete game outside of the first drive. Probably the most complete game we've had in a long time. So,
yeah, I definitely think that we're going to start changing this to Trey Whispers at Cloud, and let's hope that stays that way for the entire season, because that means dubs, baby. Dubs. Definitely. You get a dub. I get a dub. All right. All right. So now on to week 3 and TCU. We've been talking about TCU quite a bit this entire time. The thing about TCU is I don't know what to make of this team quite yet. Right? So the reason I say that is I did watch their first game, where they pulled out the win at the end. The first half, they were not the Horned Frogs, they were the Horned Dogs, because they were just playing like dog doo-doo. So DJ Pooh strikes again and sprinkled his pixie dust on TCU for that first half. And then the second half, they have a young quarterback, but they were clicking. They were moving the ball offensively. Defensively, they had a pretty good defense the entire game. And the second half, TCU looked like what I expected TCU to look like this season. Now, we obviously, with a young quarterback, still have the ability to do that, but their offense was great. They are a more pass heavy team. They can't run as well, which plays into our strengths, right? If we want to do that. It also allows us to tee off with the defensive line, and our secondary is one of our strengths, as well as our linebackers. And here's what I want to say about that. They like short passes. They're not gonna Dylan Gabriel you with a 80-yard pass to the end zone, right? They're gonna do short routes. So I have a lot of confidence in our secondary, but more importantly, I have a lot of confidence in our run or our linebackers, in the sense that they are quick enough, whether it be Ethan Barr, Josiah Pierre, or Ziri Alexander. I watched him too. They are quick enough to be able to undercut those routes, cover the receivers that may be breaking, and they're big enough to cover the tight ends. So it'll be really, really interesting to see what happens with that fast-paced, quick play for TCU's offense versus our secondary, because I think they're going to try to take our line advantage, because their line isn't that great, having watched them. They cannot run the ball very well. So I think they're going to try to they're going to try to dink and dunk us all the way down the field. So what do we do defensively? Can our guys, play well there? Are we going to be physical enough off the line to make sure that their receivers are thrown off of their routes? That's really what I'm looking for TCU. Now the UCF opens up a 0.5 underdog or half a point underdog, which really means that it's a toss-up, right? Because the home team gets 3 points. The spread is currently, I think Ellen had this wrong. I think it was a 2.5 point underdog.
2.5.
Currently, TCU -1.5, which again,
I think it's 2.5 now, depending on your service. But
okay. So
ESPN bet still has it at a 1.5 underdog for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So either way, that means that according to everything, we can win. FPI has us actually winning this game as well, despite it being on the road. For me, what are the keys to the game? The things that I'm looking for is how well do we play on the road? Josh, you mentioned that earlier. We have not played well on the road in the last 2 years against P4 opponents. Really, since I think Georgia Tech. We beat Cincy last year, but so did everybody else, right? But I think Georgia Tech was the last true, really good road win, and that was in 2020. UCF 7-10 on the road under Malzahn all time, and we went 1-4 last year. Now, obviously, last year was kind of a weird year, but that's kind of where we're at. So I think this is an opportunity for UCF to prove that we can win not just 1 or 2 games, but can be. I think this is the opportunity for us to show that we are truly a conference contender. And with what Kansas State did last week and how OSU played last week, I think we've got an opportunity. What do you guys think about this game?
I think the true advantage of having a lot of transfers on the team is you kind of don't buy into some of the negative things that happened in the year prior, and quite frankly over the last few years prior. I mean, we talked about 7-10 road record for Gus Malzahn here at UCF, and also just Gus's mentality of just kind of taking over a lot of different details on the team, such as play calling. I feel like what we saw from TCU, and you touched on it, Roger, for the first 2 weeks of the season, is that they have tended to get off to slow starts. And so can we start fast on the road? Can we kind of like score quickly, get a 3-and-out or maybe 2 3-and-outs for TCU and just kind of show that we're the better team to start the game? I think that would start to really kind of expel any doubts that Gus may have in his mind about some of the past blunders on the road that he's experienced here at UCF, and and any of the players just wanting to kind of make their stamp on this season and show that we're a different team, we're a different attitude, we're gonna go into TCU and really put it on them. So I'm hoping that we see a hot start and we just kind of carry that through the rest of the game, because it seems like they're vulnerable in that aspect, and that's a way that we can kind of get that monkey off of our back.
Guys, anybody else?
No,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Josh.
I was going to say the Boise State game felt like it was a good road game win, and it was minus some of the other parts that happened in that game. I think this would probably be one of the best away game wins in the Gus era at this point. Like, there's so much momentum, there's so much riding on it. It's still cautiously optimistic because I haven't seen a ton of amazing things on the road. I feel like we're going to. feel like we're going to.
I mean, we've got bigger road games coming up, but this has got to be. Hold on, this has got to be the biggest road game so far of the Gus Malzahn era here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, meaning we've lost the prior opportunities. Like if we had some wins there, of course it'd be different. But this is the biggest road game of the Gus Malzahn era so far.
Well, I don't know. The Gators game with the Gator Slayer, I think, in the bowl game was pretty good.
Well, it's not a away game.
That's not a
away game. That's a bowl game.
Well, that's what I said. If you're not talking about bowl games, right?
Well, no. If you're not talking about a neutral site game, sure, yeah, but that's a neutral site game. I'm talking about a true road game, whether a bowl game or not.
Yeah. So I would agree with you guys. I mean, Boise was a gutty win, and a big part of
the win too.
What's that?
And the way we got the win too, I think was
I mean, JRP was hurt in that game.
Yeah.
And that kind of sucked. But outside of that, we gutted out that game at Boise, which is not an easy place to play. TCU is not traditionally an easy place to play either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, just to kind of talk about TCU a little bit more, last week, granted, it was against LIU, right? So take this with a grain of salt. 45-0 win, 24 of 30 completion percentage for 9.9 yards per pass. Again, they're going to pass the ball. They're going to try to run tempo offense, right? And they're going to try. They're going to dink and dunk you, right? So that's really what they're looking for. 127 yards. They had 37 rushing attempts, so it was pretty balanced attack, 37 rushing attempts, but they only averaged 3.4 yards per carry against LIU. So I think that our defensive front is going to feast. And so it's really going to be up to the secondary and the linebackers to make their presence felt. The other thing that's concerning for TCU, 4 for 11 on third downs last week against LIU. They were 2 for 2 on fourth down, which means they'll go for it. But again, to the point that you guys were making, I'd love to see if we did get ahead early. And Josh, I think it was you that was being aggressive last week. Let's stomp on their throats, right? Mm-hmm. So let's get that going. So, all right. So that's the preview and the keys to the game. I'm going to run through the Big 12 football scores real quick, and then we'll go ahead and pick for this week. How's that sound?
Sure.
All right. So
Josh has to go first since he won. Everybody cherry picked off my pick.
New rules. I don't mind doing that.
Ben, I don't see the text message in the thread, so I need to look at that.
It's about to be sent. I'll just do it afterwards. I did it at 9:30 tonight, so we're all good.
All right. Okay. All right. I need video evidence. All right. So that being said, for the football score recap for the Big 12, Oklahoma State wins 39-31 over Arkansas in 2 overtimes. Oklahoma State could have won that game 2 other times before it went into double overtime. But Arkansas, I told our OSU guy, Arkansas was going to be much tougher than he thought they were going to be. And they made it a game and will be good going forward. Kansas State beats Tulane 34-27. I'll be honest with you. That last sequence, that was a little questionable. That was almost like a P4 head nod there going on, although they were AAC refs. Tulane played a great game. They played a lot better than I thought after losing their quarterback, running back, and head coach. Pitt beat Cincy 28-27. Dude, Bearcats, what's going on? You guys had that game the entire time and you let Pitt beat you. And here's the crazy thing about it. Their AD got fired today, meaning Pitt, after they won 28-27 against Cincinnati. So you played so poorly by losing that game that you don't even get the opportunity to say you got their AD fired. That was another miswin. Utah beats Baylor 23-12. I was a little surprised that Utah didn't put more points up on Baylor, but Baylor just did not look good. Of note, Cam Rising, their octogenarian quarterback, did have a broken finger coming out of that game, so something to watch as we kind of move throughout the season.
Was that on his throwing hand?
What's that?
Was that on his throwing hand?
It was.
Wow, interesting.
Ooh. Yep. So we'll see what happens there. Iowa State upsets number 21 Iowa 20-19. That was an interesting game because Iowa State was getting their doors blown off and then came back to win. That team, I'm telling you, a late season, late game type of team. West Virginia beats Albany 49-14. That was a good bounce back win for them to get a little confidence back after collapsing at Pittsburgh in the latter half of the third quarter when they were, I'm sorry, not Pittsburgh, Penn State. Number 19, Kansas. Andrew, what the heck, dude?
Yeah.
Number 19, Kansas loses to Illinois 23-17. What's up with that? I didn't watch that game. I don't know why they lost, but they shouldn't have lost that game. Nebraska beats Colorado 28-10. I was expecting that. Their QB looked like Nebraska's QB looks for real. Colorado looks like a hot mess. They have no running game, so that bodes well for us.
Just ask Shedeur Sanders if they have a running game.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, they don't.
I'll tell you they don't.
Yeah, exactly. Oklahoma beats Houston in a barn burner 16-12. 16-12. Oklahoma, you should be ashamed.
Yeah.
You should be ashamed.
SEC. Sorry.
Yeah. What is up with that? Houston?
And Houston, I think, was hanging the entire time, too.
Oh, maybe it was down to the end.
Maybe it's just because they lost their defensive coordinator. I don't know, but that's just not right.
Yep. TCU beat Long Island. We already mentioned that. Arizona beats Northern Arizona, a rekindling of a previous rivalry that used to be an older rivalry. They won 22-10. Doesn't bode very well for Arizona. They have not impressed me as much, other than their quarterback and wide receiver combo. If you can shut those two down, it doesn't seem like they have much. Washington State beats Texas Tech 37-16. Big surprise after Texas Tech's terrible performance last year. Why didn't this Texas Tech team show up last year? I don't know. Arizona State beats Mississippi State 30-23. And some ties there to UCF as well. Do you guys know what head coach is at Mississippi State right now?
Levy,
right?
Yeah,
That's right. Coach Levy, neckbeard himself. He loses 30-23. Arizona State's defense looks good. Their running back Scattaboo is really, really good. So if we can shut down Scattaboo when we play them, we have a good chance of beating them. But their defense is really good. BYU beats SMU in a barn burner again, 18-15. SMU does not belong in the Power 5, period.
Give them time and money.
They got money. They've had money. They had money in the AAC. Didn't win.
Give them time and money.
Okay.
They apparently need time because they got plenty of money.
Maybe they'll get
exactly.
I don't know.
Don't know. We don't know. Nobody knows. BYU is not good this year, and they lost that at home in a half-filled stadium in the ACC. I'm sorry. I don't have a lot of hope for SMU. I think they get left behind in the next round again. 5 Big 12 teams are still ranked. Kansas dropped out of the rankings with that inexplicable Illinois loss. Iowa State entered the top 25 by beating Iowa. We just have to win a few. Utah is number 12. Oklahoma State is number 13, which I don't know. I mean, it is Arkansas and a much better Arkansas team. KSU is number 14. I really don't know how they are number 14. Arizona is number 20. I really don't know how Arizona is number 20. And ISU or Iowa State is number 21. All right. That's all of that. Let's go ahead and get our picks in for this week. So at TCU, Trey.
Nope.
Trey made a new rule. Trey made a new rule live.
Trey doesn't get to make the new rules. That's me.
Last week, I everybody cherry picked my score points. Besides
Not
Ben,
me.
Ben's the only one.
But I was the worst.
Everybody else.
Well, I'm
They were
glad
cutting
they
it
didn't
too
cherry
close.
pick Ben, right? So, all right,
I'll
fine.
go. I don't mind.
All right,
All
go
I said
ahead.
was the rule that I asked was whoever wins has to go first.
All right, Josh
Reasonable.
Lazar, he called you a cheater.
I did
Go
not.
ahead and go first. That's what I just heard.
That's you need to unplug your ears a little bit. So
I think Rogers just has a tough time with Josh going first at all.
I think Roger has a tough time with other people making rules than him.
That's right. It's my rule making. No, go ahead.
So I've gone back and forth on this a little bit. So and I'm gonna go with my final pick. I obviously think we're going to win. I also think the spread is not as good as it should be. So it is obvious that TCU can score 45 points on Long Island University. I grew up on Long Island. No one likes football on Long Island. They rooted for Penn State, Notre Dame, maybe Syracuse. So that's a nothing of a team when it comes to this level of football, right? I'm sure they're going to be great in their division. So they can score 45 points. And they had problems with Stanford too. And they threw some points up on them, but again, it's Stanford, who also scored some points on like Cal Poly or something else. So I feel like they can get to the 20s of points on us, maybe even 30. But I'm going to go on the low end there. And obviously, I know we can score, right?
All right.
So,
I just want y'all to know he's looking at my score right now.
I have no idea what your score is. What I've been going between two numbers, and I'm just going to stick with it. 34-24 UCF. That's what I'm going to go with. 34-24 UCF. I actually think it might be a little tighter, but I'm going to go with my gut.
All right. Ben,
Now I just looked at yours. Okay.
have you sent yours?
Oh, I'm checking my phone now.
Yeah,
I'm not seeing yours yet.
it'll come through in a second. It's because of one person in our group text of having
iPhone.
That being said, yeah, at 9:30 tonight, which was well over an hour ago, I wrote down the score of 31-21 UCF. So I'm with you, Josh. I understand this game is going to be tough. I just feel like in the late third quarter, going into the fourth, our running game is just going to start to wear them down. It's no disrespect to TCU because I believe this is going to be a true road test. It's going to be a tough game, but I feel like it might be as predictably close in the first half, but I just feel like as the game goes on, our rushing attack is just going to kind of wear them down, and I expect the defense to keep rolling. So 31-21, we're going to give up some touchdowns because we're playing against a good team, but I don't expect much more than the 3 on my prediction, and I expect us to win by 10.
All right. So Ben's score prediction came through at 9:53, which was or 10:53 Eastern, which was 1 minute ago. I'm just putting that out there. Do you think I changed my Apple Watch time that is in that picture? I was leaving that part out for a reason. So
you were leaving that part out there for a reason because
hanging out to dry.
Look bad.
All right, Trey Deal.
Yeah, so I'm actually gonna go 34-20, similar to Josh, but I think it's gonna feel a lot closer than the score, just because I think on the road, TCU it's going to be crazy. I just think that the way the defense has been playing, they've been playing so sound, and I didn't really touch on it earlier. I don't really see a lot of mistakes they're making. I mean, besides the one trick play, which anybody can get beat on a trick play. It just depends. They're playing sound across the board. They're playing like on a string. That's what they talk about that in basketball with the motion offense. You should play on a string. This guy moves that. That's how our defense is playing so far, and it's boded well. But yeah, I think I'm with you, Ben. I think they're just going to lean on the run game, and the type of running we're doing, the physicality, it starts to wear on you. If you can stay with it into the third quarter, especially in the fourth quarter, it starts to wear. I mean, we saw it happen to us, all season. It felt like last year in the third and fourth quarter, teams that ran the ball well, it started to pop then. So I think that's what we're going to do, and I think we go into TCU and win comfortably. I think they might score a touchdown or two and then kick some field goals, but I think overall we played a very good game, clean game.
All right, so Trey is 34-20. Good guys. I know Nobra's not expecting this, but he's going to give us his score prediction since I know he flashed it on the screen, but nobody can hear you if they're listening on the podcast. So Nobra, what was your score prediction? And he's muted. He's a
Made mine a little before
producer.
Josh.
I promise he's a great producer.
Yeah, the difference between producers and on-air talent.
That's fire.
I made mine a little before Josh said his, but it was pretty close. 35-24 UCF.
All right. That's we're gonna bring him into these score predictions. So Nobra, that's your warning in spite of Josh's shots fired quote there for for a minute.
I see you, Josh.
It's okay.
All right. So for me, bringing up the rear this week, and I know Josh is going to put B, but there it is.
Yeah.
For me, I'm going to say I'm thinking very much along the lines of what Trey is with regard to our defense being able to play well against TCU's offense. I also think that we're going to try to control the clock as much as possible because they're going to dink and dunk it on you. So we want to give them the fewest amount of possessions because they cannot run the ball. So for me, I said 38-21. I was thinking 42-21, but I do think that they're a power forward team. Depending on which half of TCU's offense shows up, they have the potential to score. We'll make the adjustments. 38-21. Good guys. UCF wins. All right. That takes us into a little bit of listener love. And this week, I want to shout out a few new, phrase of the day, dink and dunk. That's right. Nobra, you're learning. All right. So, let's give a little listener love this week. 3 new folks that I kind of want to highlight: Carlos Vega, Felipe Vasquez, and Randy Watts. Thank you for subscribing to the YouTube channel. We appreciate you. Tell your friends, because it really, really does help us out and getting the message out. In addition to that, we had a very lively discussion on our show last week. I'm going to try this. Ice Kirby IXI. So I don't know if he's trying to use the Roman numerals there, but he says also, our fans have gotten lazy. This is in reference to my West Side diatribe there. We barely even do the UCF chant whenever the band plays it, mainly just the students. Meanwhile, whenever FSU plays their war chant, the whole stadium participates. I usually scream at my section to participate. 100%. We were not in midseason form, although last week was a lot better. Greg Phillips, 6949, says that the KJ run where he hit the linebacker, I think he is wanting to get hit and get a hit on someone. Wanted to show the team and fans that he was here to win and play hard no matter what the score. Remember, he never took a single hit during preseason. They may have also been part of the first half issues this week. We'll tell. Go Knights. Greg, 100%. I think that was for a reason. He wasn't seeing things properly, etc. He wanted to show that he was still part of the team. This week he made up for it. So love to see your comments this week on what you think of KJ. All right. That being said, let's go ahead and pivot. Since Alan's there, you go. Alan's we're still getting into midseason form here too on the pivot. We're getting better. It was better than last week. Alan's oxymoronic stat of the week. We don't have one because we don't have an Alan. So we'll go right into Josh's sometimes funny of the fact of the week.
All right.
Josh,
All right.
Lazar.
There you go. Here we go.
Sort of.
You gonna
through it.
start. Gonna.
All right.
Yeah.
Come on. Let's go.
Great. Don't have any technical difficulties.
No, bro, with the Josh is having technical difficulties.
It's called a bit. It's like the stuff at the end of the podcast. All right. So in 2021, 4 current TCU coaches were either A, a coach at UCF, B, coach star players currently at UCF, C, were head coaches at other schools playing against UCF. Name those 4 coaches and their teams. You'll probably get 3.
Say that one more time.
In 2021, there are 4 current coaches on TCU staff right now that either were a coach at UCF, they coached current stars at UCF. That should be an easy one. Or we talked about him in the podcast already, or were head coaches at other schools and played against us. 4 total coaches.
So Kendall Briles.
Kendall Briles, yep. Was at he actually played against us in 2014 at Baylor as well, and Coach KJ. So he got 1.
So hold on, he was on the field at 2014.
He was on the 2014
he was
team.
coaching, is my point. I was making a little jokey joke. All right.
Yeah. So
their defensive coordinator, whose name I can't remember.
Patterson, right? Patterson?
No,
Patterson.
But you are correct. Can you pull the name off, or give me the team at least?
Boise State, right? He was with Boise State.
Yeah, he was their head coach.
Yep.
I can't think of his name, but yeah, he was with Boise State.
Andy Avalos. And
there it is.
If I got it right, 21 and 23, actually, he played against us. We got 2 more.
I was going to say Aranda, but that's Baylor. I knew it was an A. I couldn't remember what the Avalos part of it. Yeah.
So you got 2 more. One I know you're not.
Trey, you got to help us out here, bro. You're just staring off into space out there.
I have no idea.
So you have the offensive coordinator coached KJ in 2021. Right. You have the defensive coordinator who was a head coach who played against us in 2021. What other big coach might have played against us in 2021?
Sonny Dykes?
I already said Sonny Dykes. You just breezed over me, Josh.
That's I blame Trey with his talking so much about things.
Man, I said Sonny Dykes.
Honestly, Ben, I didn't hear Sonny Dykes either. Honestly, for real.
I'm sure on the playback, I'm sure you're right. We all probably talked over each other. So the head coach, the offensive coordinator, and the defensive coordinator all have insights or have worked or played against us. And you know who else? Who I know you're not going to get? Chris Dawson, the strength and conditioning coach, was our strength and conditioning coach for the 2021 to 2023, and he just left for TCU in February.
There you go. Well, you know what was interesting, Ben? I think the problem is you're 7 foot tall, right? So when you're leaning back in your chair, you're a lot further distance from the mic than the rest of us. I don't think it's picking up your Sonny Dykes because I honestly didn't hear that.
He was over at SMU, wasn't he? In 2021?
Yeah. And it's, to me, when I started looking at the names, sometimes I'll look at things for names, or there's a couple players from Florida and whatnot. Sometimes if players transfer, but I saw those names. I'm like, we've talked about almost all of these people in the podcast in one way, shape, or form. I'm like, and then I saw Chris Dawson. I'm like, I know that name. It just floors me that there are so many people that know about our so Briles knows about KJ and some of the intricacies there, right? And Avalos has already had to go against not a Ted Roof defense. Let's just go there specifically at UCF, but has that experience. Sonny Dykes has that experience playing against a Gus-led UCF team. It just seems like
Sonny Dykes is also a Gus disciple offensively.
So
he's off his coaching tree.
Yeah, so it's just really this. It's probably why Dawson's there, right? It's just a lot of coincidences. Now, will that show up in the game? Probably not.
Well, that kind of stuff works both ways, doesn't it? I mean, just because KJ played for Kendall Briles doesn't mean that he can't talk to our defense about how to key in on his offense. So there's ways that can benefit us as well.
As an aside, quick aside, before we get onto the update on other UCF sports that Alan does not watch, I did watch something that came on Netflix this past week that was about a certain sign stealer from the University of Michigan. And one of the things that they were talking about and why it was interesting was, if you remember, our former defensive coordinator who moved on to Arkansas was talking about how people knew our calls at UCF, right? And so there's a whole subculture, and I learned about this through this documentary. There's a whole subculture of sign stealers, and then also people who swap these signs. So it's part of the reason why, we heard about the helmet rules this year with having the ability to communicate the signals to the offense via the helmet. It is directly from that Michigan probe. And because of the subculture of sign stealers that were out there that were stealing signs. We all know, I've told you guys, ECU had our signs when we played them JRP's first year, and he had those interceptions. So it's something that everybody does. And that's
I don't see what the big deal of it is, to be honest with you. Everybody steals signs.
Well, you said too that Memphis had your guys' signs when you guys played them, right? So
yeah. If you, in my opinion, if you know somebody has your signs and you keep using the same signs, you're asking to get beat.
You're right about that.
I mean, we had dummy signs. We had people change. They knew our signs, so we changed them on the sideline. Like, hey, instead of using this, you do this.
Yeah, we had.
Why you would not do that? Because that's like the gamesmanship. I mean, some people think it's dirty, but that's just the gamesmanship of it.
Oh, Alan just chimed in with his score prediction. So sorry to interrupt there, Trey. Yeah, Alan says that UCF's going to beat TCU 72-13. So let me get that in here real quick.
Is that can you get the real one? Come on.
Hey, listen, it's just like on Nightline. If you miss a week while we're doing score predictions, you get whatever I give you. No, Alan Levin checked in this week at 31-23. So very, very interesting. He's figuring a couple of field goals in there for that. All right. So that being said, we're going to try to keep it under 2 hours, as much fun as we're having. Let's go ahead and pivot. All right. Everybody but Trey, because he didn't spit out his water.
All
right. Let's go ahead and pivot to the quick update on other UCF sports that Alan does not watch. Josh, you can go ahead and pivot away from that first point that's on there and just skip right to Houston.
I know, but I have to say it. Unfortunately, the UCF women's soccer team had so many chances against the Cows, but unfortunately in about the 86th
there was
minute,
one literally 5 yards from the goal and we missed, and it was a wide open goal. Like, how did that happen?
I know. I don't know, but we lost 0-1. It was not a happy time. We play Houston next, and hopefully we can score more than 0. The UCF men's soccer team beat UC Irvine 5-1. They'll play FIU next, and
which you need to say this: UC Irvine has a very good soccer team.
I mean, they still lost.
I know, but traditionally, UC Irvine is a championship contending soccer program. Like, and they're not; they're always ranked.
Yeah,
and they are. Do you know the mascot for UC Irvine?
Oh God, not. I keep thinking Jackrabbits, but that's probably not right. I'm not going to look it up. I don't know.
Anybody else know?
UC Irvine's?
Yeah.
No.
Trey?
Don't they have like a anchor in there?
Nope. No, not even close. It's an animal. It's an anteater. They are the anteaters.
That's right, the anteaters. That's right. Yeah, I should know that from the NCAA tournament. They actually went pretty far in the NCAA tournament.
Dude, you like call tournaments. Like, you should know this. Like, what's up with that? All right. Sorry, Josh. Go ahead. Let's finish this one out.
That's okay. The FIU Panthers. They are. They're going to be next against UCF, and I will tell you, I was just looking up there. The Panthers are 0-3-1, but here's probably why. They played at North Carolina, ranked number 12. They played at Georgetown, number 14, and now they're going to play versus at home versus UCF at number 17. So they have a very hard schedule. I was a little shocked of how much they. Hopefully, we see another great score as well. And last but certainly not least, our women's volleyball team is doing well. They beat Stetson 3-0. They beat UNC Wilmington 3-0. And if I got that W wrong on the UNC W, this is why I spill out things when I do things, but I'm pretty sure it's Wilmington. Now they are 4-0 in the season, and they play FAU next. Women's volleyball team is pretty good.
Yeah. We'll see how they do in Big 12 play, because we have very solid teams in women's volleyball in Big 12 play. I just got a curse word from Alan on the text thread. So that being said, congratulations again to the team. Great coaching, great people. They looked really, really good. You've got teams like BYU in this league, etc. So this is a very, very tough volleyball league. All right, guys, it's game week. I feel better this year than I have in many years. I'm not necessarily saying we're going to go wreck TCU, but what I am saying is I'm looking forward to a game that no matter what happens, I know is going to be competitive. I do think we beat TCU this week. I think Colorado is going to be a pushover, and then we're going to see, I think, DJ Lagaway when we play the Gators at that point. Which
that's the one thing I didn't want to happen. I mean, he's young, so we're going to have to – I don't know what we're going to do, but as you saw last week, he's talented. He's extremely talented.
And we will have a Gator insider to talk about that game that week. So, what?
The biggest game is the next game.
Yeah,
that's right.
On TCU.
TCU, baby.
Yes.
All right, Josh. Any final thoughts? Because we know you keep talking randomly at the end of any shows.
I don't do my final thoughts until after the show is over.